In Hazbin Hotel, Vox is a walking TV whose personality is so competitive, but so competitive that he literally tried to eliminate his competition when he was still alive. At the TV station where he worked, whenever someone new became too popular, he literally killed the person, and he did this for years on end. Consequently, as one of the only survivors of the TV station, it was natural for him to stand out. After all, there was no one left. Inevitably, Vox starts to ambition the station for himself. And when this request is denied by the owner at the time, he eliminates him too. Eventually, whether by fate or karma, Vox ends up dying in the most ironic way possible. A TV falls on his head, which gives him the appearance we see throughout the anime. Because of the light he led, Vox obviously ends up in hell. And because of his personality, he ends up wanting to dominate everything there as well. By observing Vox more closely, we can see that his core values revolves around control, because he's a TV, and manipulation of reality. Something very similar to what we see with television, one of the symbols for technology. The idea of technology is precisely defined by evolution based on science and consequently bringing into reality a superior world or a better world compared to the one that already existed in classical antiquity, medieval times, or Renaissance times. Or in the case of television itself, bringing something better than even physical reality can offer by sometimes manipulating and distorting reality to keep you watching what it has to broadcast. So it's quite interesting to see symbolically Vox as this fusion between machine and man, almost like a letter to moral corruption or even a critique of our attempts to always control or even manipulate nature. In Vox's case, this includes other people as well. It's no wonder that throughout the anime we always see Vox manipulating everyone, wanting to possess what belongs to others because he believes it will be better suited or cared for or even deserved if those things were in his hands. So much so that one of his powers is the ability to hypnotize people, perhaps also an analogy to a herd effect that his devices and this modern life end up causing as well. By trying to control the world around us so much, we end up in the end just not living life, not enjoying that same world we want to control. If we analyze this character's personality, it's quite obvious that he is an ENTJ. The dominant DE or extroverted thinking appears in him through this compulsiveness to organize, measure, and structure everything around him strategically, while INTPs with TI or introverted thinking tend to try to organize everything inside their own heads. ENTJs like Vox try to organize everything outside of them in the concrete world, the physical and observable world to the eyes. And it's no surprise that the shadow of this type, the inferior function, is FI, or introverted feeling, which is normally more common in INFPs, given then that appearance of dependency, childishness, or just being little shits as they are. One of the most famous psychoanalysts, Alfred Adler, was one of the coiners of the term superiority complex. And one of the things he said to define this complex is that in the appearance of all of those who tried so hard to seem grandiose, to do great things, to strive so much, to appear something outward, in almost all cases, is to compensate for some opposite feeling that exists internally. That of precisely not being any of those things, of possibly being inferior, of possibly being belittled, of being in the end an INFP. Behaviors that we see clearly in Vox. After all, right after he goes to hell, he seeks help from Alastor, an old acquaintance, who in turn bursts into laughter at how unlikely that seemed. Something Vox would never do while he was alive. Ask for help or to be dependent on someone else's abilities and strengths to achieve something. And even 7 years after this occurrence, for a very, very long time, Vox still holds this resentment, this anger at what Alistair did. And when he discovers that Alistair is back, the first thing he does is an entire musical made to get revenge on him, saying how much superior television is to radio. Absurdly crazy, but totally typical for an ENTJ. In other words, the higher the rise, the greater the fall. The more you try to appear on the outside, the less you end up being or feeling you are in the inside. And all this effort by Vox to try to seem like someone important, sometimes just for appearances, ends up creating within him what is literally the meaning of his own name. Vox, from Latin, means voice, sound, or word. In other words, just like his own name, this is a character who at all costs always tries to call and claim to others so that he is heard. It seems that everything he does is precisely for that. He wants to be recognized, heard, listened to by other people, that they do his will or everything he commands. And when that doesn't happen, well, let's say he doesn't take it in the best possible way. And that's it. I know I said I would do an analysis of L from Death Note this week, but because of the end of the last season of Hazbin Hotel, some friends and my girlfriend said for me to do this anime, even though I've never seen it in my life. So thanks for both David and Clara, and we'll see you in another video. Bye bye.